Friday, March 1st, should have been an ordinary day for truck driver Sydney Thomas. Making her routine delivery north towards Indiana, she had no idea, the moment she entered the Clark Memorial Bridge, her fate was sealed. What happened next left her suspended in the driver's seat as she hung nearly 100 feet over the Ohio River. At 96 years old, the Clark Memorial Bridge of Louisville is no stranger to accidents. In the year from March 2023 to March 2024, it averaged one incident every 4 days. Fortunately, the vast majority were minor. The morning of March 1st, 2024, was a cool 48 degrees Fahrenheit or 9 degrees Celsius with overcast skies. For the Louisville residents going about their commute, making good use of all 4 lanes of the Clark Memorial Bridge, it was a morning like any other. 26-year-old mother and former military veteran Sydney Thomas was heading northbound towards Indiana, driving a Cisco semi-truck with a full load. Running slightly behind schedule, she had chosen the Clark Memorial Bridge ahead of the larger toll bridges to save time. Nonetheless, she remained composed, the narrow lanes of the bridge forcing commuters to keep a modest pace. However, today, there was one exception. 33-year-old Trevor Branham was driving toward the Clark Memorial Bridge in the opposite direction in the driver's seat of a Chevrolet pickup truck. Contrary to the behavior of fellow drivers, he was reported to have been weaving in and out of traffic and switching between lanes. Further to his reckless driving, he was operating his vehicle with a suspended license. Clark Memorial Bridge, known locally as 2nd Street Bridge, is the oldest of the 3 major bridges connecting the state of Indiana with Louisville, Kentucky. It is, however, the narrowest of them, with each of the 4 lanes measuring a mere 10.5 feet in width. Sydney's semi-truck was 8.5 feet, leaving little more than a foot on either side. Moreover, the bridge has no shoulders or space for emergencies. Thus, an entire lane becomes blocked when a vehicle stalls, forcing all cars heading in that direction into a single lane. This, combined with the reckless driving of the oncoming pickup truck, the stage was set for a catastrophe. At around 12 p.m, as Sydney entered the Clark Memorial Bridge heading north, Trevor Branham, in his Chevrolet pickup, was entering from the opposite end. After hitting the rear of a stalled vehicle, he crossed the center line directly into the path of Sydney and her semi-truck. The impact took out her suspension, disabled her steering, and caused the truck to veer left, cross the center, and smash through the guardrail. Staring face to face with the murky waters of the Ohio River, unbeknownst to her, thankfully, the trailer of the truck, which had lifted off the ground, had caught one of the bridge's pylons. For now, at least, she was still alive and had a chance. Alone in the driver's seat of her truck, and knowing one wrong move could see her plunge to her death, Sydney said she thought she was going to die. She said she prayed and pleaded for a miracle, yet simultaneously thought of an exit plan.
When I went through the railing, I was like, I was just thinking like, wow, this is crazy to die like this, and I really thought that I was about to die. And I was like, well, I can try to hurry up and take the seatbelt off and jump out of the truck if I have enough time to.
Fortunately, Sydney wasn't alone. While bystanders on the bridge recorded the event from their phones, one man yelled from the railing, asking if she was all right, and informing her that emergency services were coming. Held in place by her seatbelt, Sydney was stranded 72 feet over the Ohio River.
When I felt myself going over, I'm like, I'm gonna have to jump. I can't swim either. I didn't know how bad it was. I thought that the trailer was still on the bridge.
While first responders were quick to arrive on scene, Sydney would remain trapped in her vehicle for another 40 minutes. In that time, rescuers worked to set up a rope system, attaching it to the ladder of a fire truck, and finding a good angle from which a rescuer could rappel down to Sydney. Entrusted by his captain, that rescuer would be 29-year-old husband and father Bryce Carden. With the Louisville Fire Department for 6 years, Bryce specialized in high-angle rescues. As he descended towards the dangling truck, a team of rescuers were positioned in the water, just in case things didn't go as planned. Meanwhile, while waiting to be rescued, Sydney's phone was lit up by friends and family trying to reach her. Unable to reach it and afraid to let go of the steering wheel, she ignored it. Eventually, she saw Bryce appear beside her, hanging from a harness outside her window. In a mixture of shock and relief, she looked at him and said, "Thank God."
He pulled me through the window. They lowered him down. He gave me the harness. I put the harness on, but I still had my seatbelt on. So he had to cut me out of my seatbelt.
After more than 40 terrifying minutes stranded inside the cab of her truck, Sydney would at last place her feet on solid ground. Sydney escaped with only minor injuries. Remarkably, despite 4 vehicles being involved in the crash, Sydney emerged as the least harmed, while 2 others were sent to hospital. It took a further 7 hours for the truck to be hauled back onto the bridge and towed away, during which time the bridge was closed to the public. The damage to the bridge was isolated to the footpath and sidewalk, therefore it was reopened to vehicles the following day, but remained closed to foot traffic a little longer. Trevor Branham, the driver of the pickup truck believed to have caused the crash, was charged with 4 felony counts of wanton endangerment and 1 misdemeanor for operating a vehicle on a suspended license, a charge he had already faced in Indiana prior to the crash. Despite eyewitness accounts of Branham's reckless driving and the video evidence showing him hitting the back of a stalled car before swerving in front of Sydney, his lawyer argued an alternative interpretation.
It's a traffic accident that happens every day. This one just happens to be on the news, and they charge it as a wanton endangerment first because it's on the news.
He was speeding, he was changing in and out of lanes of traffic prior to the collision occurring.
Perhaps surprisingly, as it would turn out, Branham was cleared from all charges except driving on a suspended license, which was remanded to a lower court and awaits further consideration. To this day, Sydney remains grateful for a second chance at life. Through tears, she said, "Sometimes I pray and I don't think God is listening, but he was that day." Furthermore, she forgives Trevor Branham, noting, "We all make mistakes." It should come as no surprise, however, that the incident affects her to this day. While she returned to work at Cisco on the 1st of June 2024, she said she'll keep well clear of Clark Memorial Bridge.
As long as it ain't that one, as long as I got enough lanes to move around in and I'm not limited to 2 very narrow lanes, as long as I get across, I'm good.